Hello everyone and welcome back to another recap for the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park Flesh Scouts role-playing game. Today we're recapping session 3 and 4, so we're doing a combo today. Make sure to like and subscribe this video. Cha-ching. A lot of you might be wondering why we're doing a 3 and 4 joint one. Lost some motivation after session number 3 to continue to film these videos because I got a lot of haters in my player group who think that my videos have too much detail. So, to my haters out there, I would like to say, 1, these videos are not necessarily for you, my players. They're for the people following along at home. Specifically people who I'd talked to about developing the game and were interested to see how it progresses but live too far away to participate in the game or don't have the interest to participate in the game. So these are not supposed to be a functional recap for players. These are supposed to be for following along at home. If you're a player watching this, you're welcome that I film these. And I will continue to try to film them because it's important to me that everyone else at home can follow along and I can talk to people about ideas and things like that. It is a good way to recap on the session, but there will be more detail than probably pertains to you as a player. That being said, if you're a player, you should still like and subscribe, comment below positive things, because I'm not accepting negative feedback from my players. Thank you very much. Talking to Adam specifically there. Anyway, now that housekeeping is done, let's get on to session 3. So where we had left off before, the group was around the electronic campfire. They just had some chili, and Director Garland had kind of shrugged into his guitar to start to play. This we picked up as he was playing the song. So in the description, I'll go ahead and link a video to the lyrics of the song that I wrote for this. You can go ahead and listen to that. I'm going to try to get one of the, a friend musician to actually sing it for me. But that video, which you can find in the description, is it's called The Flesh Pit's Lament. And it is an upbeat but depressing song about flesh pit cowboys who had first found the pit and kind of were in the initial discovery phase of the project and how it was kind of a dangerous job. So after the song and the story, everyone kind of went their separate ways, broke off from the group. They had about 15 minutes before lights out, just to kind of wander around and talk to one another. While they were doing that, Marcus from the Otherworldly Inspiration group went up to Spencer and told him that everyone was playing a game of manhunt in the Fondue Village that night. They're going to sneak out and not tell the counselors. So they went out, and Marcus said that everyone in his group had to play or else they were going to pin. If they got in trouble, they were going to tell the counselor that it was the people who weren't playing whose the idea it was. So kind of everyone was forced to play. And Spencer and Riley went around to all the players to convince them to play manhunt with everyone. And then as they were going to bed, I think it was Tiggy had spotted Jesse putting up some stakes around the camp, which was actually, when she went to go talk to Jesse, it was the perimeter fence. So it's an alarm and deterrent system that gets put up around the campsite every night to keep any kind of pit critters away, which was a little bit disappointing to Tiggy because she's excited to see them. But Jesse explained that it's safer for the whole group if they stay away when they're not, when everyone's sleeping, so everyone can stay safe. So the group went out. They snuck out. They all successfully snuck out and went to go play manhunt, which was in the Fondue Village. I created a big map. I'll put a picture of it here on a grid paper. And who was the seeker? The first seeker was determined by nose goes, which Pixie ended up being the last nose goes person. That's Susie's character. And so she was the seeker. Everyone else hid, and it kind of worked. It was a lot of like moving and waiting along the board. So it wasn't the most exciting version of Manhunt I think our players have played before, but it functioned as Manhunt. And Pixie eventually found everyone without going too deep into the Fondue Village that she could not return or ran into any creatures, which were two things that could have happened if the campers were not paying attention to where they were going. When the game ended, they started to decide they were gonna head back, and one of the campers in our group had noticed that they were missing two people from the other group, and they had thought they had gotten left behind in the Fondue Village, and they were gonna stay behind to search for them. However, as they were getting ready to go back into the Fondue Village to search for them, another camper who had already gone out had said that Birdie, the counselor for the Otherworldly Inspiration group, was up and upset and found out that everyone had snuck out to play Manhunt, and the two girls that were missing were actually the ones who told Birdie about the game, because one of them had fell and sprained her ankle inside of the Fondue Village and had to go be carried out by her friend. So when they got back, so all the campers kind of sheepishly walked, and Birdie was up, incredibly angry, beet red in the face, screaming at the kids to a level of anger that was almost inappropriate. What they did was very, very unsafe. And she was talking about how, like, you know, almost disgusting it was that they would make such a poor decision in such a dangerous place, and how they put the safety of everyone at risk. And she wanted to know whose idea it was, but she would not accept that it was Marcus's idea. She had gotten it in her mind that it was one of the campers from our group's idea, one of the history and mystery in the pit campers. So she had kind of turned her ire towards all of our players and was screaming at them. And then Jessie had come up behind her and kind of very calmly told Birdie that they're her group and that she would be in charge of determining how they would be punished, because Birdie was saying that they're all going to be sent home and they're all going to get in a lot of trouble, all these kinds of things. And Jessie said that it's her group, so she'll be making the decisions and she'll be disciplining her group how she feels is appropriate, and that Birdie no longer needs to be involved in that process for her group. She can focus on her own group, you know. And so Jessie took the kids away, the campers from her group away, and sat them down closer to their tents. Birdie continued to berate her other group and was angry at them. Jessie very calmly sat down and talked to them about how dangerous that could have been and how they should be, they really can't do something like that again. They're lucky the only thing that went wrong was a sprained ankle. But she also said that no one was going home, and she's kind of going to let it go as like this one-time lack of judgment, but as long as they are smarter about their decisions going forward, there doesn't need to be any kind of issues in that regard. She did say that instead of playing fondue ball the next morning, they're going to instead do some community service by cleaning the ranger station for the Fondue Village. So she sent them to bed, and that was that. They woke up pretty tired the next morning from all the excitement, not getting a full amount of sleep as they should have. And they walked over to the ranger station, which was about a 10-15 minute walk, and met two rangers who are Jessie's friends. We found out that rangers alternate 1 week down in the pit and 1 week topside. And the two rangers, I think it was like Toby and Ryan or something like that, they are on the same shift in the pit as Jessie, so they're friends. Everyone got assigned a different area to clean. Most people had a decent time cleaning. I think Riley struggled cleaning the bathroom a little bit. It was pretty gross, but everything else was pretty well kept. And then while Mimi was cleaning one of the bedrooms, she found a drawer that was open and located a D&D sheet inside, and she found out that the two Rangers play D&D, and then through asking Jessie about it, she found out Jessie also is part of a D&D group that meets while the Rangers are down inside of the pit, that group, and they play together. And then after they had cleaned, Jessie had said it was time for the Rangers to pay up, and they went into their pantry and got out a unopened packet of double stuffed Oreos, which Jessie distributed through the group. So everyone got to have some Oreos. Tiggy particularly kept one of her Oreos in her pocket, with the intention, I think, of crumbling it up and trying to attract a creature to the pit, to them, so that, not to the pit, trying to attract a creature to the group so she could observe it, which Jessie had said that the Oreos were not on the approved list of foods allowed in the wilderness of the pit, so Tiggy had interpreted that as being a food that might attract intrepid creatures. That's not necessarily the link I would have made there, but it's just Oreos were not allowed. It's mostly MREs that are an approved kind of food contaminant for the pit. After they had cleaned the ranger station, ate their Oreos, had lunch, they took off on a hike. It was a 2-hour-long hike, just about, to a location called the Well of the Abhumans, which was a new location we had not gone to yet. They entered into this kind of offshoot from the main trail that had, where the sign had pointed to Well of the Abhumans. It's more like a tunnel than anywhere else they had been before. It is flesh on all sides, top, bottom, left, right. It's kind of like a tunnel carved into the flesh. And then it opens up into a larger room, just big enough for them to set up all their tents in. And in the end of the room, in the center, but towards the back of the room, is a hole in the ground with very, very still, looks like water in this hole. It's not deep down, it's like right on the surface. So, and when the campers all got into this area, when they got into this opening as the cave opened up, they were described as having a very uneasy feeling that this is a place that they probably should not be, and they should not be comfortable. They were not entirely comfortable being here. The last thing that they all did for session 3 was to set up their tents, which again are very difficult. They're dodecahedron tents, so they're pretty complex, but they're the standard tent for backcountry camping in the flesh pit. They set up their tents. Some did catastrophically poorly. No one broke their tent yet, but one group came very, very close to breaking their tent. One group did not do well and had a little bit of a meltdown, I believe, about how poorly they were doing with the tent. So yeah, that's session 3. And we're now at the Well of the Abhumans as we enter into session 4. And in session 4, we started all around the electronic campfire. The tents had been set up. Everyone was eating their MRE dinner, which was meatloaf and mashed potatoes this time, which was pretty good. And Jessie continued with her program for the history and mystery in the pit content. And they were told that Jessie told them that they were going to get 2 stories told to them tonight. One was approved and one was not approved by the National Park Service. But tonight's theme focused around scary stories, and that there are historians and anthropologists and writers that focus their entire life's work on the darker and scarier parts of history. And we found out that Jessie happens to be one of those. She is working on her PhD in anthropology, focusing on her tribe's stories and folklore as they relate to ghosts and the supernatural beings. So that's her area of study. And she was very excited to tell 2 stories to the campers. One was the approved national park version of the Well of the Abhumans and the story of the Marrow Folk. And the other one was her tribe's, a scary story related to her tribe that has to do with the flesh pit. So she said she'd start with one and then they'd work their way to the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and read that story, the approved story about the Well of the Abhumans and the Marrow Folk, approved by the National Park Service for Jessie to read to the History and Mystery in the Flesh Pit group. I'm going to go ahead and read that. Since the discovery of the pit, there have been stories of people seeing humanoid shapes dart from the corner of their eyes or peek around flesh walls at them. Many people report disembodied human chanting from inside the pit and link it with the Marrow Folk. There has also been strange feeling reported by individuals who see and hear the Marrow Folk of being called deeper, further into the pit, like a cord pulling at them from their lungs. People often speculate that some of the 5 to 20 people that go missing each year in the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park are the result of the influence of the supernatural or Marrow Folk. Some believe the Marrow Folk are an undiscovered species of pit fauna, the flesh pit's Bigfoot of sorts. Some believe that they are compound fauna that look human-like. Some speculate that in early human history, a population of people began living inside of the pit and adapted to the environment to become the Marrow Folk or the Abhumans. Some think they're ghosts or demons of those lost in the pits. No one really knows, but there is no denying that there are places in the pit that cause a certain uneasy feeling, maybe of being watched or being in a place you don't entirely belong. This is one of those places, filled with mystery and unease. We don't know its purpose, so we cannot help but fill in the blanks with all manner of scary things that might be attracted here or come from here. So that ties into the Well of the Abhumans. So it had already been established to the camper that the Well of the Abhumans is filled with a liquid that they have not been able to figure out the chemical compound for or observe any noticeable effects on any creature or material. It's not water. It's a mystery liquid that no one's really sure what it is. The campers then broke off into their own groups so that they could write their own spooky stories. And the prompt was that they had seen the Marrow Folk, they knew what it was, and they had to convey the spooky story of their encounter with the Marrow Folk. So I have a few that I'm going to read. This one is from Riley. Okay, Riley. And she read this in a southern kind of cowboy accent, so I will do the same. I saw it today. I've heard tales of this monstrosity. Thought my comrades were going crazy. I was wrong. Whilst exploring what they call Abhuman Well, I saw a figure dart in the corner of my eye, scraggly, gaunt limbs, bathed in shadows. I rubbed my eyes and rapidly glanced around. Nothing appeared at first, the landscape appearing daunting and callous, and that's when I saw it, peeking from behind a dripping wall of flesh. A long, stringy hand gripped tightly. It smiled. So that was a really good one from Haley, and as Riley. Then we have Tiggy, who wrote her story. It looked like a girl, my age, sad and lonely, but not for herself, for me. She saw the depths of me that can't be seen, and she knows how to help. She knows where I can belong. She was like me once, I can tell. Lost, scared. But now she knows she doesn't have to be. She knows where we can rest. She knows where we can belong. I hear the group coming back, looking for me. I won't go back. I belong within the shadows. I belong to the depths. I hope my shadow will come and find others and bring them home, too. All will find the way. All will join the depths. So that's Tiggy's very spooky one. And then we have Spencer, who also did his as his cowboy character from the previous previous two sessions. So I will read his as well. I, Spencer the Pit Plunderer, have discovered what the identity of these some such marrow folks are. Upon trapping one within the deepest depths, I shouted hurrah, but then took back my joy as my mere mortal eyes beheld the whispering, shivering, crumpled form of a human, as clear as you or I, but made smooth from living 'neath these ribs. Heath out feet, maybe without feet, drawing us down to become one of them. Never doubt the power of human survival. Never doubt the digestion of the pit. Love, Spencer, the Pit Plunderer. So Spencer's was that it was a species of humans who had kind of gone into the pit and adapted to the pit conditions. So everyone shared their stories. There are a few other ones that were also incredibly good. Everyone did a really, really good job with that. And then when they kind of came back and shared their stories all together, Jessie started sharing her story. Jessie began sharing her tribe story, which I will also read here. This one is a bit longer. My tribe has a story about the creation of our people that is linked to the pit. Our legends talk of the earth, from which our people and all of the beautiful nature, animals, and spirits emerged. But it also speaks of a force, which has a name we no longer speak in our culture, but translates to hungry darkness. One early day in our tribe's history, the ground shook. Many people believed we had angered the earth and it intended to take us back into itself and begin again, resculpting our people. Everyone was scared. The tremor scared off all of the buffalo and gazelles, and we had no food. The tribe believed that this was further proof of the end of our people. But one elder, a wise woman, put her ear to the ground to listen to the earth's complaints. But what she heard was not the earth. It was the hungry darkness. She immediately understood what was needed to quiet the earth and bring the animals back to the land. And she led 7 of our youngest warriors to the cave in which the darkness lived. And they entered, with no equipment, no lights, nothing. The elder camped outside of the entrance, determined to be there when the warriors returned. She told the tribe that they would bear great gifts when they returned, so the tribe waited with her. Days turned into weeks, which turned into months, which turned into seasons. Before the reservations, my tribe did not stay in one place for more than a season. We moved across the plains for food and trade. This was unnatural to us, and it would have likely caused the starvation of death of most of the tribe. But the legend says the hungry darkness would send up sustenance to the tribe who stayed to wait for the warrior, and the tribe survived. Meagerly, but survived. It was 1 year and 1 season before the warriors returned. Only 3 had survived. They were changed, stronger, more capable, better hunters, wilder, and silent. They were profoundly different from before. At night, they would scream and claw at their faces. One had attacked his wife, nearly killing her. Another had hunted a bison, but when it was brought back to camp, he began to eat the bison raw, drinking its blood. The tribe went to the elder, asking to send the warriors back to the hungry darkness and cursing her for delivering such a horrible gift. The elder put her ear to the ground once more and told them that the hungry darkness required 1 more. and she entered into its cave. She was never seen again. But the next night, the warriors did not scream, and they did not claw at their faces. With time, they began talking and had no memories of the hungry darkness or what happened while they were in the cave. They became stronger and stronger as they grew older, each having different skills, which made them the best warriors in all of the tribes of the plains. Our tribe never lost a battle and always traded for the best goods. When the warriors had children, they had similar strengths and were gifted as well. The hungry darkness would continue to take from our tribe. Every so often, a young warrior would be called to leave the tribe and enter the cave, lost forever. But as our numbers grew, the pain became less strong, and the tribe eventually forgot about the hungry darkness and the cave it lived in. Only those called to it could find it, and that is how it remains. So, that was Jessie's story that she shared with the group. They had a little bit of a discussion afterwards, and then everyone headed to bed. There were some tense conversations between different characters, but everyone eventually drifted off to sleep here within an hour or so. And then the campers rolled, and their rolling determined who would be the focus of what was about to happen that night. And Spencer was the first one to wake up, and it was described that he had woken up having felt something kind of touch him. And absentmindedly, he went down to touch his torso to brush away whatever it was. And when he went to go brush whatever had touched him, his hand did not hit his torso. It hit something that felt like plastic. And as he touched it, he felt all along his body like 100 pinpoints begin to press into his skin. And then up by his head, he started to hear some kind of wet clicking and trilling noises right in his ear, and a feathery antenna brush kind of caressed down his face. He woke up Gareth, who was in the tent with him. Spencer was trying to grapple for his katana, but he could not find it in the dark. Also, he had one arm pinned around him because he realized that a creature had wrapped itself around him in his sleep and was slowly pressing him. When Gareth got up, the kind of commotion had woken up all the other tents, and it was realized that Tiggy and Riley both had also been surrounded by, encased by these creatures. They were described as being about 15 feet long, having a exoskeleton, and hundreds of little crab-like legs all the way down their body, and a kind of hammerhead-shaped face with undermouth kind of parts. I guess I would call it similar to how a horseshoe crab looks underneath. So they were all wrapped in, Spencer, Tiggy, and Riley were all wrapped by these creatures. Tiggy had both of her arms pinned down by her. Spencer had just one of her other arms pinned to her side by these creatures. And as they struggled and as they tried to escape, the creatures would get tighter, or they'd dig their kind of claws, their little legs into their skin. Gareth, Maria, an NPC, and Mimi were the ones who were loose and able to help. They had gone to get Jessie and found that Jessie was entirely wrapped by one of these creatures, and it was actually directly over her face, the head of the creature, so she could not speak and she could not see, anything like that. They heard muffled screaming from her, but it was also, there was no way to see that she could be getting air anywhere while this thing was around her. So Maria began panicking very, very badly, waking up next to Riley and seeing that sent her into a panic attack, and she kind of shut down. Gareth did not take too kindly to Maria shutting down, neither did Mimi. I believe Mimi went up and slapped her at one point to try and snap her out of it. That did not work. That just upset her further. And Mimi had rolled, and she got the name of the creature, which was a flatworm from within the pit. And she remembered that they're typically solitary creatures who don't go in packs, and they're scavengers. They're not active hunters. So this is kind of strange. And then the group also, Tiggy had also rolled brains to figure out if she wanted to remember if she could remember how to deal with a boa constrictor attack. And she successfully rolled that and found to start at the tail when you're being attacked by a boa constrictor and pull the creature off from the tail. So Gareth and Mimi decided to do that while Maria was in her panic state, and they started to pull from the tail, but that just made the creature dig in even harder to Tiggy, causing the legs to actually break the flesh on her leg, and she started bleeding, not profusely, but she had a few puncture wounds on her legs from all of these little kind of claw type things going into her. Gareth had ripped the tents while the campers were struggling. Several of the tents collapsed. Jesse's tent collapsed, Riley's tent collapsed, and Spencer's tent collapsed. Gareth had taken the collapsed tent off of Jesse and the collapsed tent off of Riley, but Spencer was left in his collapsed tent, covered in just darkness with this creature wrapped around him. So he was kind of down for the count there. While Gareth decided he was going to take one of the stakes that had been put in as like the perimeter deterrent that night. He was going to take one of those and try to stab it into the creature. He did not roll high enough to actually find a good spot. It's a well-armored creature, so he did not roll brains high enough to determine where to stab this for the greatest effect. And while he was doing that, he witnessed Maria in a panic walking backwards to get away from the commotion and everything that she was seeing, Tiggy bleeding, everyone wrapped up in these horrific looking monsters. Jessie with one right over her face, like not really being able to breathe. And she was backing away slowly, kind of overwhelmed. And she took one too many steps backwards and then ended up slipping and falling into the well of the abhumans. Now remember that this is just the water is at the top of the well, so it's not like she fell a great distance, but she could not get herself up. She was even more in a panic. She was not functioning at her highest level, I'd say. So she was just flailing around this water, trying to get out, falling, getting even more panicked, which angered Gareth quite a bit. He was very frustrated with her and her inability to deal with the situation. So he decided just to kind of leave her panicking and flailing in this liquid in the well of the abhumans. And instead Gareth had taken that stake, stabbed it in the creature. It had reared back a little bit, but not enough to be substantial. But it did move the head of the creature a little bit off of Jessie's face. So her mouth was still covered, but her nose was uncovered and one of her eyes were uncovered. So it was kind of like around it like that. And she could breathe comfortably again. So she had some color returning to her face. And then finally, they decided to help Maria, who had been panicking and flailing, nearly drowning in this well the whole time. Mimi and Gareth went to go try and pull her out. They were not successful the first time with their strength rolls, and then, or their fight rolls. In Kids on Bikes, you use fight, not strength. And they had tried, while they were gearing up to try for a second time, I believe, they noticed that Maria's splashing got more frantic, and that some of the water from the pit splashed out and landed on one of the creatures on Riley and caused it to significantly rear back. It did close itself around Riley again, but it was not nearly as tight as it had been before. So that kind of told them that these things were adverse to liquid. So Mimi had assumed that the liquid was any liquid. So she went into her collapsed tent and it wasn't collapsed. She went into her tent and pulled out a water bottle and poured the water over the one that was wrapped around Tiggy. It did not do anything. So then it was revealed that, okay, yeah, it's the water in the well, which isn't water, it's an unknown liquid that they have not been able to identify the chemical compound for. So they pulled Marie out, finally, and she kind of just crawled into a ball along the side of the pit wall. And Mimi began splashing. She splashed Jessie, which caused Jessie's flatworm to rear back in excruciating pain, let like a kind of scream type noise out, and scamper away. So what she'd done was successful. Gareth had wanted to collect water in his shirt, absorbing it, and then he was going to wring it out over top of another creature. However, the clothes that they were wearing were specifically designed for the pit and specifically designed to be water repellent. So no water would be absorbed by this. So then he had taken his shirt off to try that. It did not work. Then he decided he was going to take his pants off, tie the legs closed, and fill it up with water, which is a smart idea. However, when he went to go fill it up with water, it was too heavy for him to pick up out of the well without accidentally tumbling in himself. So that kind of, it was determined by that point that splashing was an effective way of getting the creatures away. So Gareth, tossing his clothes to the side in his briefs, began splashing like crazy with Mimi, all of the other campers. They splashed him up like crazy. They were covered in the liquid. All the campers were covered in the liquid, the water from the well type thing. And all of the flatworms screamed and ran away. So everyone was saved. Everyone had a minute to kind of collect themselves and kind of gather together. Jessie had gotten blankets out of all the tents to wrap around the campers, so they wouldn't be, so if they were in shock, which Maria was, definitely, they would be okay. She reset the border and told them that she was going to go make an emergency call. I forgot to say, when it first happened, Mimi tried to make an emergency call on the radio, but she only tried one time and did not get through to anyone. So Jessie said she was going to go to make an emergency call, and she was going to follow the trail to the main kind of intersection to make sure that the creatures weren't still there. The flatworms weren't still there, and they were okay. And so she'd left. Everyone kind of gathered together. She'd told them, she'd also set out their bedrolls all together, and she told them that they really, really needed to sleep because their body had just overdosed them with adrenaline, and that they would soon be shutting down so they could go back to sleep. So tonight they'll need more sleep than ever before. So everyone went to sleep, and they fell asleep, within a snap. In the morning, the campers woke up, and they had a steaming MRE breakfast next to them. which was for a different day than what the actual day was, but Jessie had wanted them to wake up to a really good breakfast, so she picked her favorite MRE, which was breakfast for day 6, and she said that they'd go a little bit out of order so that they could have a really good breakfast this morning, which was a loaded hash brown MRE, which was very good and comforting for the campers. When they woke up, they also noticed that she had packed up their tents for them overnight, and she was kind of sat next to them reading a pamphlet. She had assured them that she was not going to go to sleep that night, that she was going to stay on guard the entire night and make sure they were safe, and they had nothing to be concerned about. They were in good hands, and she would not let something like that happen to them again. The campers immediately wanted to go home that morning and were kind of antsy to start leaving. Jessie told them that she had contacted the topside. They had to immediately contact Anodyne and about the incident, and Anodyne had determined that they needed more, that what had happened did not meet the criteria for an immediate extraction from the pit for the camp. No one was critically hurt. Jessie had gone and assessed everyone's wounds. Some people were slightly bruised. Maria was in shock, and Tiggy's bleeding on her leg was really just like scratches akin to what you'd get like if you walked through a thorn bush. Like, it wasn't anything more serious than that. So Jessie had doctored their wounds, but no one was critically hurt. So Anodyne had said that it didn't warrant an immediate extraction and that they were not supposed to come out of the pit until Anodyne has settled the arrangements with their team of lawyers. So they didn't want the kids to come up and parents to be called until legally they had protected themselves as an organization, and the national park was protected, so none of the parents could sue them or anything like that. So the kids were very disappointed to learn that they were going to continue on the pit, on the camp trail plan, but Jessie told them that day they're going to head to the Gastric Sea, and they're going to take a ferry overnight that night, so they're going to be safe in the ferry room. They're going to be inside for tomorrow's night, and that she was going to restructure the hiking plans so that they would remain close to the visitor center the whole time, so that when they did get the call from Anodyne, they could leave immediately. They weren't too far deep into the pit where it would take multiple days for them to return. So that was the assurances she gave them. And she did say that this was a fluke. The animals in the pit do not act this way. Even during the summer exhalation season, which Tiggy had brought up, she thought, Jessie seemed to indicate that it might have been the result of some kind of weird mating cycle thing. Or they had been running from something, was something Tiggy had remembered seeing about an account when she was researching creatures, an account from a miner that had said he saw a group of flatworms together in like a herd, but determined they were running from a larger creature. So that could be the case, but Jessie had gone out and she did not see any other creatures, so that was kind of why that was dismissed, at least to the start. So that's where we left it for session 4. It was our first combat experience, which was really exciting. It was more like a puzzle, but with some very combat-like elements. It was really, really fun. Everyone seemed to enjoy it, I think. There was lots of like, type things when I was describing the things with these they're basically giant armored centipedes that are super creepy and crab-like. So a lot of discomfort there, a lot of intensity as Gareth and Mimi were trying to figure out how to help people. So there was, there was talking with the other campers, but Gareth and Mimi were the only ones who were able to actually like do an action because they weren't wrapped up by these creatures. But they ended up doing it. It took a little bit longer than I thought for them to figure it out, but they did, and they saved their campers, and I think everyone had a really fun time. I know I did DMing it. So I'm looking forward to session 5. Things are really starting to heat up here, and we're kind of past the intro phase of the game. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds for our campers. Thank you for watching. Bye.